Hey everybody, it's Elaine. Today I'm going to be talking about two celebrity memoirs. I'm going to be reviewing two autobiographies from our favorite Monty Pythons. Not sure how that works. Anyway, one of them is by Eric Idle and the other one is by John Cleese. Since I read the one by Eric Idle first, I'm going to start with that one. The autobiography is called Always Look on the Bright Side of Life by Eric Idle. It's a sort of biography. And I really like this cover because it evokes thoughts of Monty Python and the Holy Grail, which is probably my favorite work of theirs, although I also like the football match involving the Dutch and Greek philosophers and the, what's it called? The Lumberjack song. That was a really funny skit. Anyway, I digress. So the sort of biography talks about a lot of different aspects of Eric Idle's life. Um, it did talk about his time on Monty Python, but I wouldn't say that was the focus. It talked a lot about things like his friends, his experience on Broadway, his love life, and a lot of other things, which I don't really have time to get into. Um, I would say that although it did have its moments and it was funny, which is something you expect from Monty Python, like Eric Idle, it was also quite dull, and it was largely quite dull. And I'm saying this because Idle had a tendency to just list his life events. Like, he didn't really go into detail and reflect on them, say how things made him feel, or really, do anything in depth about, the importance of certain events in his life. And if they were a turning point, it would just kind of list, like, this happened, and then this other thing happened. And it was kind of just like I was reading a timeline on Wikipedia, but with slightly more detail. Um, I think that really gives you an impression of how this book was written. It was really bothersome because I think when you read a celebrity memoir, you want to get like those nitty gritty details that you don't always get when you're just reading articles online, or listening to an interview because they don't have time to go into as much detail as you like. Whereas a book, they can write whatever the heck they want and you're stuck reading it because that's what they wrote. Um, so that really bugged me. Second thing that really bothered me about this was the fact that Idle tends to use really large block paragraphs. I mean, like things that were like half a page or more. This might not seem like a big deal, but if you're someone who kind of enters a sort of trance-like state when you read, it becomes easy to lose your place if there's even the slightest distraction, and then you have to search through an entire page to figure out where the heck you were. So yes, that was that one issue. It was hard to find your place if you lost it. And also, just everything seemed so insurmountable. It was like, whoa, this is a huge paragraph. So that was a problem. The other thing I didn't like was that this book often felt like just a time for Eric Idle to name drop. It'd be like, and then I hung out with this celebrity, and I'm friends with this celebrity, and we did this with this celebrity. And it's like, well, that's great. You have a lot of celebrity friends. But there was no real reflection on their relationships or how they impacted him for the most part. I would have liked to see that because without that sort of information, I felt that the autobiography lacked depth, and I expect a lot more depth from someone like Eric Idle. Um, and again, just not as funny as I thought it would be. He's a Monty Python. He has a huge reputation to live up to, and I didn't feel like he delivered. Um, so the second autobiography I read was by John Cleese. I know he's written a few, but I read So Anyway. I think it's the first one he wrote. I could be wrong. It might be the second out of two or three. Anyway, it talked about a lot of things. It didn't really focus on Monty Python so much as John Cleese's early school years, his time growing up in school, one of his first jobs as a school teacher, his first marriage, um, some of his later TV shows, things like Faulty Towers and his experience there. Um, Again, I won't say that I thoroughly enjoyed this book because I didn't, but I would say that it is one of the best celebrity memoirs that I have ever read. And I think I feel that way because Cleese takes the time to reflect on his life's experience. He gives you a lot of details. He talks about how things made him feel. He takes the time to really explain things to you as opposed to just list things and give you like a general kind of timeline, or like a history, really dry history. Um, and I felt like, in a way, I got to know him better, which is really important. I think when you pick up a memoir or a autobiography, you really want to get to know the person that it's about. And if you're just reading like a list of events, you don't really get that, oh, I know this person now feeling, which is something I actually got with this book, and that was really exciting. I don't feel like I see that a lot with celebrity memoirs, especially. I feel like it just becomes like a list of like, hey, look at me, I achieved all these things. And just like a general timeline, which is bothersome. I also thought that this novel was pretty funny, all things considered. There were times when I actually laughed out loud. It had a lot of really good, strong moments, which is something that I expect from a Monty Python. They have a long list of achievements. They're known for being really funny people, and I felt in many ways that this book often delivered on that. It met my expectations of something that would be funny. Um, I will say, though, that this book wasn't always funny. There were times when it was extremely dry, it was really dull, it was really hard to get through. There was almost too much detail, and I don't want to say not enough consideration for the interest of the reader, but for lack of a better phrase, not enough consideration for the interest of the reader. There were too many like minute details which uh, weren't hard to grasp exactly, but were hard to find entertaining and were hard to find humor in, and were in many ways hard to relate to. Just because, you know, Cleese is British. I happen to be American. I was born and raised in this country, America. I grew up in New York, and my experience is different. I didn't go to a boarding school. I don't always understand everything that Cleese is talking about because I didn't have this experience. So in some ways I felt a little distant, but the way he explained things helped me to learn them and understand him and his experience better, but sometimes it was just too much. It was um he needed to stop sooner before he lost my interest. Um Ultimately, I would say if you want to read a celebrity memoir and if you like the Monty Python at all, especially John Cleese, I would really suggest this memoir. I think it is a strong celebrity memoir. I think it's something worth reading if you're into this kind of book. Um, so ultimately, I give So Anyway a 3.5 out of 5 stars just because, again, there were dull moments I couldn't always relate, and that's to be expected. Obviously, I don't have a life like John Cleese, and that's fine. Makes the world go round. Um, I think that covers everything. Uh, it really felt like I got to know these people a little more. I, enjoyed the lapse from fantasy, which is something I typically read. So, thanks for listening, guys. I hope you have a great day. Bye.